I'm from Neath and I'm an active member of Neath Young Farmers Club. I've been a member for 14 years. I work for Wales Young Farmers in Builth as a Rural Development Officer. The main part of my job is to make sure that the voice of the young people are heard in rural communities. I would love to be independent. I'm a home bird really. That Neath is where my friends and family are, and I can't continue to live with my parents for the rest of my life. But housing in Neath is unaffordable and unrealistic for any young person to buy. Every person's dream to own their own house and live in the area that they want to.
Enw fi yw Steffan Arwel Evans a dwi'n byw yn Llandeilo yn Sir Gyfyrddin. Dwi'n byw yn gytre efo mam a dad a dwi ddim yn byw ar ffarm ond yn pentre bach mae digon o ffermydd rhwng yn yr ardal. Fi'n aelod o'r Clwb Ffermwyr Ifanc a dwi'n mynychu Clwb Ffermwyr Ifanc Llandeilo yn Sir Gyfyrddin. Dwi'n licio bod yn gyfeillgar yn y cymuned ni a gweithio lot gyda'r sioeau lleol, sioeau ffermwyr lleol. Ac hefyd yr uned Llandeilo yn wedig dwi'n eistedd ar y committee, y show committee fyna. Amser yn henach, lycan ni bod mynd mewn i ieuenctid a gwaith cymuned. Dwi'n newid gorffen lefel A's fi ac rwy'n mae'n mynd i Newport nawr i astudio ieuenctid ar cymuned. A gobeithio dod nôl wedyn i'r ardal yn Llandeilo i gweithio yn y cymuned a edrych ar pobl ifanc a gweithio dyn nhw wedyn. Bydd wastad lle i fi gytre dy mam a dad, ond mae fe'n ardal eitha drud, so gewn ni weld falle bydde'n bach o trwbl ar ôl dod mas o coleg i dod nôl i'r ardal. Fel mae'n edrych nawr, dwi ddim yn credu bydde fe'n rwydd i dod nôl i'r ardal oherwydd ar ôl dod o coleg bydd dim lot o arian da fi a dwi'n credu bydde fe'n lot fawr o trwbl i dod mewn i prynu tŷ yn y cymuned. Rwy'n credu dylai fod siawns i pobl ifanc cael tai yn y cymuned sydd maen nhw gallu affordio heb bod yn becso amdano popeth arall a bod mewn yn trwbl dy arian. Rwy'n credu dyle pobl ifanc ddim becso amdano renti tai achos dyw e ddim rhywbeth mawr i becso amdano achos mae siwr gymaint o pobl yn neud nawr a fi'n credu hwnna yw'r ffordd bydd pobl yn neud yn y dyfodol.
I'm Kate Miles, I'm 30 years old and I'm a club leader at Neath Young Farmers Club. There's a number of young people of my age and slightly younger who have grown up on farms, worked on farms, but their parents are still living there and working there. So clearly they're the next generation coming through, but they haven't got anywhere to live. They tend to look at caravans, static caravans to live at. However, there's a problem there in relation to planning regulations. The Gow is an area of outstanding natural beauty, which does mean that the planning controls are so much tighter. However, that doesn't help young people trying to make a future for themselves based in that area and support that rural economy.
I'm Abigail and I'm from a little village called Skewin, which is near Neath in South Wales. I've currently lived in my house now for 22 years on and off as I went away for 3 years to go to university. But now I'm back and I've been living there now for another year. In the future, I plan to stay around the same area because I do a lot of volunteer work within my local community. So I have a brownie and a guide group, which I'm solely in charge of. So we'd need to stay in the local vicinity to travel there every week. And I also volunteer for the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, which is in my local area as well. So I don't really want to leave them because I really enjoy the volunteer work. I'm not really happy with living with my parents at the moment just because I moved away for 3 years and it's so strange then moving back. But in the future I'd like to live close by but not too close. I think the chances of owning my own house are pretty low at the moment just because it's so hard to get a mortgage without an absolute massive deposit and it's not really viable at the moment until I get like a full-time job and then I'm reliant on myself.
Hwyluswyr di'r enw, dwi'n dod o ardal Bala, Penllyn, Sir Feirionnydd. Dwi'n aelod o glwb Sarne, a dwi'n fod yn aelod o'r clwb ers blynyddoedd mawr bellach, ers pan o'n i'n 11, dwi'n bellach yn dros yn 30. Dwi wedi byw yn yr ardal erioed, dwi ddim yn briod, dwi ddim yn byw adre chwaith, mae gen i dy yn hun, bellach wedi symud i Gaernarfon i fod hefo gwaith. Dwi wedi symud i ffwrdd, dwi bellach yn byw yng Nghaernarfon a'r prif reswm oedd oherwydd bod gwaith yn mynd â fi allan o ardal y Bala. Ryw ddiwrnod, swn i wrth y modd gallu mynd nôl i fyw ym Mhenllyn neu ardal y Bala. Yn anffodus ar hyn o bryd, tydi y pellter rhwng Bala a'r gwaith ddim yn siwtio fi. Mae llawer iawn gwell gyda i fyw yn agosach i'r gwaith, felly yn enwedig efo costau byw dyddi yma. Ar y cyfan, swn i'n dweud bod tai yn rhatach yng Nghaernarfon, oherwydd fel tre dipyn mwy na'r Bala. Mae yna dipyn mwy o dai ar y farchnad, swyddi sydd yn talu chydig yn well hefyd. Felly ar y cyfan, swn i'n dweud bod costau byw yn gyffredinol yn rhatach mewn trefi mawr na gyda nhw mewn ardal Gwledig. Mae gen i lawer iawn o ffrindiau a bobl dwi'n nabod neu'n goblygus nhw sydd wedi gorfod symud i fyw oherwydd gwaith gan amla, gorfod mynd lawr i'r trefi neu dinasoedd mwy, boed o yng Nghymru neu'n Lloegr, jyst oherwydd mae'r gwaith a costau byw chydig yn rhatach. Dwi'n eitha hapus lle dwi ar y bryd. Swn i'n licio meddwl yn yr hir dymor mae nôl adre i'r Bala a'r aill i ardal Penllyn, ond pwy wyr fel mae pethau yn newid. Yr hinsawdd gwleidyddol, ariannol, costau byw, felly mae'n anodd dweud ar hyn o bryd lle fyddwn ni. Ond swn i'n licio meddwl mae adre.
My name's Louise Jones. I come from Gwledig in Carmarthenshire. I've lived there for 2 years now. I used to live in Lampeter, Cwman Lampeter. I go to Cwman YFC, which is in Carmarthenshire. It's hard to get rental property in Lampeter because it is a university town and there are lots of student accommodation, which then pushes prices up. So I had to go out of town. I had to go and find Felnfach, which is about 15 minutes away from Lampeter. So I couldn't actually get property in Lampeter to rent because it was so expensive. I used to rent a house with my husband near Lampeter, but the rent was very expensive and what we were paying a month in rent could have gone towards a mortgage. But in Lampeter we couldn't find any accommodation that we could afford to buy. So we moved. We had an offer from my husband's parents to being able to buy a property at a reduced rate, and that's the only way we could afford to get on the property ladder and buy our own house, because we no way would have been able to afford it otherwise. And that's the only way we actually own our own house, is that way. Renting was too high and houses where I lived were too expensive as well.
My name is Gareth Adams. I'm a local farmer from a village in Sharnewton, which is in Gwent. I've lived there, I've lived there all my life until recently. I got married and I've had to move away from the village to be able to afford a house about 10 minutes away in a place called Mega. So I've been there for a couple of years now with my wife. And it's a shame really, because I'd like to live in Sharnewton. It's obviously where I've been brought up and lived all my life. It's a family farm, so it'd be nice to be close to the farm, but the house prices in Sharnewton are pretty high. I mean, you can't get much for under sort of £500,000 really there, so obviously we were completely priced out of the market for that, so we had to move a bit further away to set up home really.
I'm Envis Evans and I'm the Wales YFC chairman. The YFC is so important in rural communities. It's been a strong movement for 75 years and it's got such a big role to play for the future as well. Young people have a big role to play in ensuring the liveliness of rural communities for the future. Rural communities are really important for young people. We've seen many people go off to universities in past years, but they want to come back to live where they've grown up and where they feel at home. Obviously, job-wise in our rural communities, salaries aren't fantastic, which obviously has an impact then on the cost of housing, and there seems to be it's quite expensive in our rural areas, and for us local people it's very hard to get on the property ladder.